And we have a very special host, along with some very special guests.
To be here as we walk down memory lane.
Broadcaster at the time. I went on at 7, and we timed off at 1
For 6 months or so, Chuck Smith was in the owner's
Saturday afternoon from generally until 11:30 or 12.
I worked there from April 63
to June of 65. Right around the last month of that.
I discovered the web page that you guys have set up really good.
I'm so honored to do this. I just worked here for a summer.
That was the summer I turned 96.
Got out of the Charleston. That's what jokes on. It had more listeners per calendar than any radio station in the South.
Good afternoon and welcome to the WTMA DJ Reunion Talk Show. I'm John Quincy, and we have a very special host along with some very special guests. It's Bill Sharpe from Channel 5. Hey, Bill.
Oh, John, it's good to be with you. Thank you very much for those kind comments. Hi, everybody. Bill Sharpe from Live 5 News, and I am honored to be here as we walk down memory lane and look back at the great days of WTMA, back when it was the mighty, nifty 1250 Tiger Radio. And John Quincy, I got to tell you, I grew up listening to people like Jim Diamond on the radio and sort of dancing to the music of WTMA. It was the big rock and roll station when I was growing up back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. And folks, we're going to remember how it was back then. Let me start quickly on the phone with the big boob himself. Tell me some memories that come to mind.
To be honest with you, Bill, I showed up in Charleston in 1966. I had a few beers, and it was 1985. I was the night broadcaster at the time.
Right.
I went on at 7. We signed off at 1 o'clock, and then we moved out to Orange Grove Road.
I remember that distinctly. That's where I first met the great
That's right.
Big
I was just
Boob.
going to say that I first met you out there. You were a college kid trying to broadcast radio. You had a natural talent. You really took to news. You were a newsman right from the beginning.
Right.
And we knew you were going somewhere.
Boob, how did you sound? Let's pretend as if you're on the air.
Hi, everybody. This is Big Boob up and down the eastern seaboard. I'm the mouth of the south, the nose of the north, the beast of the east, and the pest of the west. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's 79 degrees at street level. It's 80 on the sidewalk. All right.
Hey! I want you to meet a guy that goes back to the 50s here at WTMA, and that is Buddy Charles. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you.
Thank you. Now, tell us what you did here at WTMA.
Well, I think I started off very much like many people around here. I did weekend radio, and after about 6 months or so, Chuck Smith, who was then the owner, had me do from 2 o'clock in the afternoon until 6.
Right.
We had quite a few listeners, but it was mostly, in those days, the kids got out of school at 1:30. That's why I could go on at 2.
Oh.
And I got on the bus where WTMA furnished me a car. I used to drive to the studios. It was at the Dock Street Theater.
Right.
Of course, I had a mentor, Jack Gale.
Oh, gosh, that goes way back.
Right.
I've heard of the great Jack Gale.
And Jack and I ran the Hound Dog Record Shop.
Tell me a little bit about that, buddy.
Well, the Hound Dog Record Shop actually came out of the Hound Dog radio program. You kind of growled in your voice, Hound Dogs, here we go, rocking and rolling with Fats Domino.
Let me hear a little more of that, buddy. Come on, let's pretend as if you're on the air.
Ain't it a shame? Well, I have to have the beating going on down here at the bottom, and the dog is going,
Ladies and gentlemen, listen to Mr. Buddy Charles.
And it's Ruth Brown and her band of renown.
That's the way it sounded back in the 50s. Also here from the 50s, Mike West. Mike, it's good to have you with us, too. How have you been?
Well, thank you, Bill. I shouldn't say the 50s. I was here 60 and 61.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not nearly as old as Buddy.
Well, you know what? Buddy looks great, and so do you.
But he does.
Now, what did you do, Mike, here when you were at the mighty TMA?
I was a weekend warrior, and I worked Saturday afternoons, generally until 11:30 or 12. If I was a cadet at Citadel, and sometimes the Citadel would let me come back in just a little bit late if I was coming directly from the station back to the school.
You were a cadet at the Citadel working part-time here at WTMA on the weekends?
Right.
Let me hear a little bit of your spiel, Mike. You remember how it sounded? Go ahead. Give us a little bit, folks. This is taking you back to the 60s. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mike West.
They called it the mighty TMA, miles and miles and piles of smiles right here on the Wild West Show, Big C of the Carolina Coast. And they called me Wild West. I never considered myself all that wild, but we went from country to rock, late 50s, early 60s. George Wilson was the program director then.
Did you ever graduate from the Citadel, Mike?
I did. I finished in 64 and went on, spent 30 years in the Navy. I retired as a captain.
What are you doing now?
I'm an engineer contractor for Spay-War.
That's great. Mike West, it's great to hear from you, too. Another guy I want you to meet in the studio with us right now. This man, Jim Diamond, has got the quirkiest, craziest sense of humor in the world. The reason I know that, the reason I know that is because I worked with him at Channel 5 under his real name, which was R.J. Kight back then, and it still is, as a matter of fact. R.J., how the heck are you?
How would you like me to be?
However you want to be. Tell us.
I could tell when I got here that I was at the right place because I saw all those stickers out there from the American Association of Radio People.
Uh-huh.
I guess that's what AARP stands for.
That's retired people, you dodo head.
Oh, okay.
All right, let me, R.J., when you were Jim Diamond, what years were you here as Jim Diamond?
I started in April of 63, and I worked there from April of 63 to June of 65. And right around the last month of that, Bob Mitchell said, you're not going to really go much higher than where you are without some good radio experience, information, education, whatever. Right. And I heard of a school in Memphis, Tennessee, so I went there for a year. And then I came back and went back to work at WTMA from January 67 to March of 68 and met a lot of other funny people like Boob and John Smith. And
when you were Jim Diamond, how did you sound?
Well,
give us a little bit.
WTMA time now. It's just about 12:26. We're looking at some great music from the Beatles coming up next. But first, here's a word from Bill Sharpe.
Oh, that's pretty darn good. Right now on the phone is Mr. Johnny Long. Johnny, tell us about when you were here and what it was like back then.
It was just amazing. I came over to Charleston to work at WQSN, but of course, as soon as I got in town, I realized that WTMA was the place to be. And I want to thank Jim Diamond for taking off that year and going over to the school. Because of him, I was able to slide in there and start to work. They used to run a promo that because all the guys used to do dances every week. And I noticed one day that Jim's name was missing. So I contacted Deputy Doug Rando, who was the program director, and consequently I slid right in.
Johnny, what years were you here, by the way, at the mighty WTMA?
I was there in 64 and 65.
All right.
And I would probably stayed longer, but I was offered a job in Cincinnati at WSAI.
Oh, the big time, Johnny, huh?
Well, I want to tell you something, though. TMA was always one of my favorites. We used to run a contest. I'm sure the guys remember that was called Name It and Claim It. Well, the phone lines would jam with so many people trying to get in that sometimes you would have a cross telephone lines where you would have two or more people on the line.
Gotcha.
So we'd have to give multiple winners because it would be unfair.
Johnny, do you remember how we eventually solved that problem? If your last name starts with the letter...
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
I forgot that.
There we go.
It was just amazing. Then I worked at a couple other stations, but TMA has always remained close to my heart. And I discovered the web page that you guys had set up.
Right.
Really good, and it brought back a lot of memories. I remember all the guys that were there.
I've asked each of these guys I've talked to so far to speak as if they were on the air again, the way they used to talk. Let me hear how you sounded, Johnny. Can you do a little bit of your bit, your shtick into the mic for us?
Well, I'll try after all these years. Let me see. South Carolina weather is going to be partly cloudy and mild with a high today of 80, a low tonight of about 65. At Folly Beach right now it's 78, Somerville it's 80, and at Streetside it's 75.
Hey, Johnny Long, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Take care of yourself, and thanks for being a part of our look back, our reunion special, our nostalgia trip back to the 60s. I want you to meet now a guy whom I've known for many years, Mr. Bill Edwards. Well, how are you?
I am great, Bill. It's good to hear from you. It's what a pleasure. And, I'm so honored to do this. I just worked here for a summer doing news.
How old were you when you first started here?
That was the summer I turned 19.
And back then you were tall and skinny.
I was.
What happened?
Well, the Dairy Queen Blizzard diet hasn't worked out quite as well as I'd hoped. But it sure tastes good. We were called the Good Guys in those days, and this is how the shows were introduced.
Now, big summer fun with good guy Bill Edwards, the music, and you. WTMA, Mighty TMA.
And that's how we came on every at the top of every hour right after we did the news. And when I finished up at school, I came up here to get another job at TMA. And I went to Rotary with Dad, and the general manager at Channel 4 here walked up to me after the meeting and said, "We have an opening at Channel 4 if you would like to come audition." Well, I was waiting for him in his office when he got back from the meeting, and they liked what they saw, and I was there for 4 years.
What happens after that?
I went with the Greater Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce for about a year.
All right.
Then I got a job with a radio station in Georgetown.
Right.
Then I got the television job back in Savannah at home, and I've been in Savannah ever since. I've been at various television stations doing sports, and so I now do a morning talk show, WTKS down in Savannah.
All right, Bill, let me have a little sample of the way it was when Bill Edwards was here at the mighty TMA back in the 60s.
I only did an hour, so it was just kind of the normal voice here, and that's Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons with Ragdoll.
That's pretty good, Bill. You got a great set of pipes. You might think about radio as a future career. John Smith, are you there?
Yes, I am, sir. And
John, when were you here at WTMA?
I was here in 1966. I got out of the Navy. I was discharged here at Charleston, and then, of course, I was immediately homeless, so I had to find a job, and I had to find a place to live, so I just wandered into the studios here because I was always a radio nut. We're all radio nuts.
We are indeed. So you wandered into the studio, and you got yourself a job.
Got a job, but they couldn't use my real name of Dick Andert at the time because they had a Richard Anderson on the air at the time. So for some reason, they had to put a couple of jingles together, and they came up with John Smith for my, WTMA John Smith. So that's who I became.
By the way, tell us what you're doing now, because you've got a fascinating job. What are you doing now, John?
Well, I now work for the city of Los Angeles. I'm still in communications, basically. Usually what I'll say is, okay, sir, I clocked you at 67 miles an hour in a 40-mile-an-hour zone. You are to appear on or before such and such time at...
and that's without a jingle.
There we go.
Yeah. So press hard, you're making 4 copies. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
There we go. I take it you're a cop, Dick?
Yeah, I had to break down and get a real job, you see. Right now, I'm a sergeant of police with the Los Angeles Police Department.
Oh, that's great. And you're on the air?
Yeah, I'm on the air right now.
Oh, but you're not on the air in L.A.
The only time on the air in L.A. is when I say 10L60, I'm code 6 at 5131.
Or you call for a backup.
Yeah, or I call for a backup. Nobody will come.
Dick,
but, I can do that.
Give us a little bit of your spiel, the way it was when you were here back in the 60s.
Okay. We all forced our voices down then. I think you listen to air checks, and everybody kind of took it down here real low all the time, and kind of a phony thing.
You want that intro again, John?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's try it again. Ladies and gentlemen, from the low country of South Carolina on the mighty TMA, let's listen to good guy, Mr. John Smith.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is John Smith. In a few minutes, you're going to hear the Uncle Booby Nash on the radio, and we'll be talking and playing some records here for you. Bob and I, we would do crosstalk usually, and so I'd play like Gramps on his show. So I had to get up here, with an old grandfather voice.
We've got some voices that you may know about and that you may have heard. And I'm going to start with John Burwell.
1250 WTMA, the mighty TMA.
I didn't even ask you to do that.
Thank you very much.
You don't
have to ask John to do that. I still remember how it was done.
John. Let me hear it again, John. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Burwell.
1250 WTMA. Hi, everybody. I'm John Burwell. It's good to be with you.
Oh, boy.
How about that?
That's pretty darn good, John.
Yeah,
John, you were here during what years?
I was here from January of 1974 all the way up to, actually almost 1981.
And then what happened to you?
Well, I got the call to ordain ministry.
You fell off the wagon, and you became a minister, and now you are an Episcopal priest.
At Holy Cross, Solomon's Island. I've been there actually for 18 years. I've been at Holy Cross, Solomon's Island.
Oh, my goodness.
Great church out there on the beach.
John, as we look back, some of your favorite memories of being a disc jockey here at the mighty WTMA.
Great day in the morning. I mean to tell you, when I came to WTMA, it was the #1 station in the Southeast. Now that's no joke because it had more listeners per capita than any radio station in the Southeast. And I was working the morning show at WNOK in Columbia, the morning drive show, 6 to 9 in the morning. And Keith Nichols, I'd worked with at college, said that they had an opening on the all-night show down here.
Right.
This station was so big that I went from morning drive to overnight just so I could get my foot in the door down here at WTMA. And so my first 6 months were overnight, midnight to 6 at WTMA. Then I got on at 9 to noon, and it was like it was in heaven at 9 to noon. And just one more thing, real quick. When I was got on at 9 to noon, John Trenton, the general manager at that time, called me.
We all know John. I worked with John in the mornings.
He said, "You have now made it to WTMA." He said, "We are the #1 station." and we will stay the number one station. And if you can't, I will find somebody who will.
Ooh.
Do you understand me? And I said, yes, sir, I understand you. And I kept the ratings.
Yes, you did. That's a great how do you do, John. And we'll come back as WTMA strolls down memory lane to the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s as we look back and remember the golden days of rock and roll right here at the mighty WTMA.